And the chairman of this panel is Mr. John Momo, Chairman Channels TV. I don't know, I know he's apparently not here. I don't know if he sends a representative. Do we have a representative of Mr. John Momo of Channels TV? Okay, if he's not here, may I have the of God, I beg you in the name of Allah. Whoever mistakenly took it should please mistakenly put it back somewhere that we can see it. I beg of you. Thank you. Let me just say the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Film and Video Census Board, her name is Mrs. Bukola Agbaminoja. Am I correct for the pronunciation? Agbaminoja. Please, a round of applause for her. That's the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Film and Video Census Board. She will wear dual hat here today. She's the keynote speaker and also the chairman or the chairperson of this session. So may I have the honor of inviting, if Stephen Osezua or Osezua Stephen Immobile, if you are here, please come up stage. You are one of the discussants. Then Al-Aji Abdulkarim Mohammed, please come up stage, ever ready, ever willing to add value. We appreciate you, sir. You are most welcome. The President of the Directors Guild of Nigeria, Mr. Victor Hai. If you're here, please come up stage. The President of the Directors Guild of Nigeria. Okay. May we have Mr. Madu C. Shikwendu. Mr. Madu C. Shikwendu, if you are in the hall, please come up stage. I was told to call you as one of the discussants. I think that's about it. I will try to guide us uh, as the moderator for this panel. Mr. Madu Sishikwendu, we are waiting for you. Thank you very much. So while we await the arrival of the president of DGN, Mr. Victor Ohai, the organizer spoke with him a while ago and he said he's on his way into the hall. We also await the arrival of Osezua Stephen Immobile so that we can kick off. We can kick off. So just two of them we're waiting for. But while waiting, I have the instructions of the organizers of Zuma that we can actually kick off. We should start and go on. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the keynote speaker, who is the Executive Secretary of the National Film and Video Censors Board, Mrs. Bukola Agbabiloja, to deliver his keynote address. You're welcome, ma'am. A round of applause for her, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Not having the full panel, let me move to the panel of discussants. Mr. Alex Eigo, Malam Abdikarim Mohammed, Mr. Victor Hohai, he's not here present, and Madu, Mr. Madu. I don't know why I don't have your name on this already. Madu Chike. All practitioners in the industry, all students here represented, and in my parlance I always say, our youth, our strength, and our future. It's in your hands. Gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I bring greetings from Lagos State. It's indeed a great honor for me to be delivering the keynote speech at this very important forum. I would first like to congratulate the Nigerian Film Corporation, the organizers of the Zuma Film Festival, and also the Federal Capital Territory Administration for co-hosting this year's festival and giving the industry an opportunity such as this. I have a few teasers before I go into my address, and it's in line with the topic for the day, which is film distribution, connecting films with the audience. And one of the teasers goes as this: how do the film audience find out about films in circulation? What methods are available for film distributors to attract film audience to specific films? In a market such as ours, how do the film find their audience? That's a two-part question. Film production is a momentous achievement, but all these great and intriguing ideas and talents are in futility if nobody watches them. And I'm sure nobody wants to put all the effort into place and find out there's no distribution channel to showcase the talent that has been put into work. It should have been a dead dream, or dead on arrival, as they would say in the hospital. So, distribution is making a movie available for viewing by the desired audience. It is the meeting ground between production and consumption, which includes theatrical exhibitions, TV broadcasts, VOD streaming, and DVD sales. Since the advent of filmmaking in this country, film distribution has always been a major problem for the Nigerian filmmakers. The switch from cellular to video technology, coupled with availability of video cassettes, was the first break the filmmakers had, and immediately adopted a straight-to-video formula to circumvent the previous disadvantages that has been in route distribution channels, which was restrictive for Nigerians as of then. However, the DVD method of distribution was rather limited as it became, since it was restricted to 3 or 4 major primary distributors or distribution centers from where the video cassettes were delivered to shops and stores alike. As the demands of the audience grew, this structure was not adequate, as it could neither guarantee a same-day nationwide spread of new film release, nor exploit the conventional options of stages of film distribution as in most economy, which is seen as the film commercial's lifespan. That is the cinema release, the video release, pay TV, broadcast on public TV, and other ancillary media. Cinema, yes, this real cinema has been fruitful, but we cannot consider it a primary source of distribution in Nigeria, since most of the movies produced in Nigeria were not shot for the cinema. And the major challenge is accessibility and immediacy, which is the problem of virtual consumerism. And it brings us to the point of how many screens do we actually have in Nigeria? As at 2020, we had 77 screens in the whole of Nigeria. Lagos State boasting of 27, of which 5 belongs to the state. So the change is inevitable. And once there is a vacuum, there's always a new deal to be brokered, because man cannot exist in vacuum. There was a need. We've gone from supply-led to a demand-led market in the film industry. And there are new distribution channels, platforms to connect to, and the advent of the new technologies. So over the past 2 decades, digital technologies have begun to transform the film industry. We have moved from analog to high definition, and traditional distribution systems are barely reconsidered and gradually being abandoned. Questions have arisen in response to the rising popularity of new technologies, such as the video on demand and connected devices like tablets, smart TVs, and smartphones. With the advent of these technologies, the film market is growing every year, with revenue for independent film producers. It is therefore important to note that film distribution has evolved. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the market growth and the adoption of VODs. As several countries were on lockdown, movie theaters and cinemas were temporarily closed. And in the first quarter of 2021, digital streaming platforms such as Netflix reported a tremendous increase in new membership. Compared to the same year or period in 2020, the company's membership reached more than 200 million at the head of 2020. The global VOD market size was valued at 69.55 USD billion in 2021. And my question is, what percentage of this is available to Nigerian filmmakers? As a result of these emerging digital technologies, the independent film distribution value chain is being affected by two interrelated movements. First, a changing relationship with a new type of consumer, known as the active audience. And second, the opportunity to explore new business models that these technologies facilitate. It is pertinent that any filmmaker interested in finding an audience for their film would look into VOD distribution platform. But I will also suggest that you still look at the DVD platform. Don't be in a haste to abandon the old and reliable, because this will bring you to a point where you have to look at the fraction or the demography of those that have access to these smartphones, to the VODs, to the internet streaming in all forms, and those that are yet to acquire. You have to look at the continent in which you live in. You have to look at Nigeria itself. How many of your population are reaching out for that smart devices? And how many are yet to be able to reach it? Now we begin to determine who is going to feed the need of those that cannot access this digital technology yet. They are still your audiences as filmmakers. You can't afford to lose them. So, all might not be able to achieve the similar experience. You might not be able to meet the standard that are being raised by the cinema experience. I urge you to try to meet it, to be internationally competitive. But I also urge you to be business entrepreneurs, to look at feeding the needs that are being left behind. They deserve to hear the Nigerian story. They deserve to hear the African story. So, be the ones to champion their cause. I remember the first time I watched a flick that showed a car that was driving itself. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, they have come again. Car driving itself. Yes, that's the American style. They showed us, and we are seeing it now. So, there are some remote villages that do not know about this your smartphone, that do not know something as common as WhatsApp that you can talk to and see yourself on it, on Skype, on all the media. Why not be the one opening their eyes to the new magic? Yes, some have gone beyond that new magic, but there are some that we still need to bring to speed on the new magic. Let's enter those terrain and do our business there. So it takes me to the question of who is your target audience? As a filmmaker, you have to identify your genre, the target audience for your film. Every filmmaker would like to believe that everyone is their audience, but this isn't the case. The audience for a comedy is definitely different from an audience for an horror movie. So you have to research on your audience. What's their demography? Once you have a sense of your genre, it's time to do research. The film business, as we can see, and I believe we have a lot of film students in here, is not an all-comers business as before. Now you have to read, you have to study. Now you have to be competitive. You are going to be featuring in festivals. You're going to meet counterparts from different parts of the world, showcasing their talents. And like the Honorable Minister said, we are a bundle of talents in this country. You have to work at it. You have to do better than the best. We are known for that we always showcase the best when we set our hearts to it. So developing the content, I will face the youth, our future, as I call it, that don't be lured by the nudity in Rome. Don't be lured by this is what sells. Sex sells. Have your talent intact. Build your followership. Be known for something that you can actually compete with effectively. Let your film speak volumes. Let people in other countries ask, is that James George? That as an example. Do you know James George? Because I believe that is what the story is going to be. When people start watching your films, they are going to make reference to it. Let that be your story. Funding is also an essential and integral part of film, and it also affects distribution. I would like to go into that, but I can't continue that without telling you what my state, what Lagos State is doing concerning the creative sector. With your permission, I will go into details of what Lagos State government has been able to achieve, and all because of opportunities like this, meetings like this. I will come up with suggestions on how to move the film industry forward. And today, I can proudly tell you that the Lagos State boasts of a film fund. The Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Oyinsola Sanwo-Olu, magnanimously released 1 billion naira into the industry, into the creative industry. These are interest-free loans to the creative sector. As that 2 weeks ago, all filmmakers, 37 filmmakers, have been able to access this loan. We didn't stop at that. The issue of the film city, because as you know, Lagos is a city. So having a film village might not really tell our stories. But we are building a film city. We have 100 hectares of land. It's been approved. As we speak, it's being fenced. Investors are coming in to begin the building, and we still welcome ideas from the stakeholders. That is not all. Since the beginning of last year, we've had capacity building. Over 1,800 students have graduated from different genres of film study. We have the directorship training, we have the actors training, we have all from all genres in the film industry. 1,000 did their training online, 800 attended physical classes. The Lagos State government partnered with 2 film academies to ensure that these students have a free education in the film business. And we are still taking talents. Admissions are still on. A new set of students have been admitted this month. and it takes a 6 weeks course. At the graduation, we'll take another set. It's been like that since 2021, because Lagos State placed great premium on the creative industry. In fact, a vehicle was created called the Lagos State Creative Industry Initiative, LASI. So this is the think tank for everything the creative industry needs. And we still look for more encouragement from the stakeholders, from the film practitioners, what you feel we can do better. So I just had to digress to talk when I talk about film funding. A lot of people, a lot of filmmakers would need a sort of push to be able to achieve the greatness that their talent deserves. So I understand that funding is a major problem. I implore all states, if they will take a clue from what Lagos State is doing, you can imagine when we have 36 states doing the same thing, you can imagine what the impact will be in the industry. So, aside of finding crowdfunding, I suggest we also begin to talk. We begin to engage our various states to partner with us. I'm happy to note that the Honorable Minister has promised to do something about the FCT. And she seems like a doer of our words. So I'm going to take FCT out of that engagement, and I'm going to implore people here representing different states. Let's begin to talk to our government. Let's begin to see that they do something about this sector before we begin to have a brain drain in this sector. When you have your funding, finding out who or what agency is ready to fund you, your marketing process must be in place. The distribution channel too, which the popular ones are the VODs now, because it's, let's tell the truth, it pays if you are able to access it. This information will allow you to create an audience profile for the 2 or 3 audience avatars. While defining the target audience for your film might not be the most exciting part of the filmmaking process, this early research can go a long way towards helping you negotiate a favorable marketing or film distribution deal. This is a better plan than the strategy that is based on hope. There are several methods that can be used for film distribution. Ideally, you should be planning your film distribution strategy before you make your film and having your target audience in mind. As new business strategies are adopted, the market may develop into 2 directions. One for independent distributors based on multi-platform releases. The other for filmmakers that continue to use models centered on traditional mechanisms. It's too early to confirm whether this is a true paradigm shift. The industry is still in a comparative early stage in terms of adapting to and adopting new technologies. The lesson is endless. We will continue to learn as we exist in this digital age. As distributors, we will gain experience and relevant data on the efficacy or new approach to successfully adopt as business models for the film distribution. There is no end to our quest as human of being the best at what we do. So as we move on with bespoke, top-notch distribution frameworks, let us ensure we are capturing the hearts of our audience and those yet to be captured. Let us take them all on this journey or find a way to ensure they follow our story, even when they are from the remote villages of Africa. There, you would have found the gems that were left behind. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I look forward to the discussions that will ensue, which I believe will shed more light on the way forward for distribution in this industry. Thank you.
Please, another round of applause for the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Lagos State Films and Video Census Board. Let me just tell you quickly, I've known her. I've known the Executive Secretary. In fact, we were sharing memories from yesterday to today, from about 10 years ago. And that was in Cannes. We met at the Festival de Cannes. You know, we didn't, practically maybe we didn't figure out, like Madu was saying yesterday, or was it Fidelis? We didn't make proper arrangement for accommodation. So we couldn't get any accommodation in the city of Cannes. You know, even though they came as Lagos State, you were not the Executive Secretary then, you were a younger officer. 10 years ago, you know, head of legal then. Okay, and so we had to go to neighboring village. You know, she was reminding me of the names of those cities. She was saying in Joan Lopin, I had to go to a further village. You understand? So that was my first contact with her about 10 years ago. So it's an honor to see that you have stepped up as now the Executive Secretary. Congratulations, madam. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've listened to her as the keynote speaker, and just to lay it as the moderator, so that when we are making our input, you know, we should know what we are talking about. We are talking about connecting films with audience. The idea here is that the content has already been created. That is the film. How do you connect it to the various audiences? That's the focus of our discussions. We are not talking about film making. The film has already been made. How will it get to the various audiences seamlessly? I think that's the focus of that should be the focus of our intervention. And I will start with Mr. Madu Sishikwendu, not for any other reason, because he's not originally on this panel. And secondly, he has somewhere to dash to. You know, Madu is always on the move. Always on the move. So let's get your intervention, you know. All the mics, are they working, please? Sound?
Hello? Okay, hello? Hello? Thank you, Alex. In fact, I think your concluding statement is a very perfect springboard for my intervention. You know, what we're talking about now, if I may quote, is that the film has been made. So how do we connect to the audience? But that is the point. Connecting to the audience determines how the film should be made. You see? Because there are several processes or stages in filmmaking, depending on who is talking. Pre-production, production, marketing, distribution. It can be 3 steps, it can be 5 steps. But the most important thing is that what kind of story do you want to tell, and who do you want to tell this story to? Every time we speak, we complain about the Kabbalistic nature of the cinemas, of course, which all over the world, it's meant to be the primary, the first phase in distributing your movie. But of course, all these things have been disrupted, like my brother Steve will always say. And then let me also now go to the statement that the best way to predict the future is to create it. There you be pay off. But it's not even their own. It's actually Peter Drucker, the father of management, that said it. So at any point in time, you must be able to predict the future. So the point is this. Your target audience should influence your film. And so when we challenge the exhibitors, they say, no, 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 no. You are not able to access the cinemas because you just go and make any film you like and bring to us. That you need to talk to us first when you have an idea of a film to make. And then we can sit down and determine the best way to make this film and the best way to reach this audience. Assuming I wanted to make a movie that would target essentially and purely young people, and I have these options of cinema, terrestrial TV, mobile, any other means. But I think clearly, if I wanted the fastest and most effective way to reach the youth, I should look at mobile. And I should also take into consideration that on mobile, at the top of your button of the screen, you have millions of options. That should also now tell me that anything I should put on a mobile phone should not be too long. This is the truth, because I don't even need to adjust my seat to change the channel. I'll just tap the screen and it goes off. And so I am trying to say that the target audience would largely influence the kind of movie you're. So it's like chicken and egg. It's an old ancient argument. Which one comes first? Is it the egg that gave you the chicken, or is it the chicken that gave you an egg? And as usual, there are different answers depending on who is talking. But again, there's the crucial issue of finance. They say, oh, the most important thing is finance. And I'm always very happy to differ and say, no, finance is not the most important thing in developing a film industry. That the structures are much, much more important. Like the issue I touched on yesterday, in terms of the role of the regulator in stimulating the development of the industry. And I'm happy, my friend, me and Buki, I think maybe it's more like 20 years or more. Your own is 10 years. And I've always had these debates. And I gave you an example yesterday, which I'll repeat now, that in France, for instance, for every foreign cinema ticket, there is 5% tax, which goes into a film fund. We expect to have that kind of thing here in Nigeria, because the level of funding that is available influences the kind of film you can make and eventually influences the kind of audience you can target. However, the difference is that with the appropriate infrastructure by the government, because in an ideal situation, it's just like that saying that in heaven, the lovers will be French, the cooks will be Italians, the engineers will be Germans, that kind of thing. So in an ideal situation, you want a situation where you would have, okay, let us say that the biggest film industry in the world is Hollywood. Not by output, but by output is Bollywood, followed by our own dear Nollywood. But in terms of influence, it is Hollywood. And in Hollywood, there are fundamental structure, because the funding available will determine your capacity to deliver your film to your audience. This is the fact of the matter. And if you are handicapped, there's a limit to what you can do. That means that as a producer, you end up either not being able to distribute this movie or settling for the easiest deal that is available. Now, okay, very good. So, at each point of distribution, there are challenges. We have mentioned now, for instance, that the primary one, which is cinema, it's like a pipe that might be 10 centimeters in width. And you have so many things trying to enter inside that same pipe. Like Madam Buki said, how many screens do we have in Nigeria compared to the number of movies that we make? We make thousands of movies, at least 1,000. Because I'm sorry, I can't rely on the data from National Film and Video Censors Board. So you have 1,000 movies, and like we agreed yesterday, you have a certain number of hours in a day. Even the number of hours in a day is not every hour that can go to cinema. So let's even assume out of 24 hours in a day, within the week, that is Monday to Friday, perhaps the most viable hours will be like 3 or 4 hours a day, the maximum, unlike weekends, where you have virtually the whole of the weekend. And so there is very, 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 very limited time available for films to be shown in cinemas. This means that out of the 1,500 movies that are made, it is probably less than 200 or 300 that can enter this system. And so you look at the obstacles to that system. You look at the change in demographics, like she mentioned. Traditionally, the Nollywood audience used to be housewives who sit at home, the same audience that were watching television programs in the past. The audience of, before telenovela, you know, we had Supple Blues, Masquerade, all those soap operas, and then the telenovelas. That was our traditional audience in Hollywood. So we are making family-oriented movies. But now, that is not the same audience for the cinemas, because that same housewife may not be that free. You have a younger demographic that is going to the cinemas. So you see that there's a fundamental difference. That is why people say to you that there are certain films, like Amina, for instance, that did very, very well on Netflix. I think that any film critic or expert can tell you that that film will never have done well in cinema. There are a lot of films that are doing well on Netflix, but they can't do well in cinema because of the nature of the storytelling and the audience that was targeted. Now, once you move to, let us say, television, for instance, too, there is some demographic factors involved because it's a form of distribution. What time is it going to show? We talked about the classification on the film. There's some films you cannot show at a certain time. So all these various systems of distribution have some challenges. That is why I think Tia Katuba said it the other day, in terms of dubbing. You know, that is you're targeting an audience. In terms of language, dubbing, the language. You look at telenovelas, for instance, a lot of them are made in their own language there, whether it's Spanish, whether it's French, and whether it's Korean or Filipino and all that. But then you change the language and dub in another language, English, because there's a new market, a new audience. These are all the factors that will consider and affect your distribution mechanism. I think at this point, let me stop here and give the floor to my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madu C. Shikwendu, for your intervention. Just before I continue, while the keynote speaker was delivering his paper, some of the panelists walked in quietly and resumed their seat. So I think it's proper to reintroduce them so that the audience will know them. The first person who was in the first panel too is the current president of the Directors Guild of Nigeria, Dr. Victor Hai. Please, you're most welcome. Wave to them, let them know you. One of the intellectuals in Nollywood. And also we have Mr. Osezwa Stephen Immobile. He also walked in here. He's the former president of Independent Television Producers Association of Nigeria. President Emeritus, you're welcome. You're most welcome. Also, we have the current president of the Association of Nollywood Co-Producers, ANCOP, Mr. Theophilus Akatuba. You're most welcome. We also have the BOT chairman of the Association of Movie Content Owners and Producers / Distributors of Nigeria, AMCOD, High Chief Aino Kushoro. You're most welcome. Your presence here is very relevant because you are a content owner and also a distributor. So you're most welcome. On that note, I think I will go straight to High Chief Aino Kushoro. You know, because you are a content owner, you are also a distributor, you are an executive producer too. So you wear the shoe, you know where it pinches. This question is for you, and I'll take you back a bit, just with a question. You can add it when answering, you know, by way of, for the benefit of educating us. So many attempts has been made by the National Film and Video Census Board in the past to help us out in distribution, if you will. I think the last one, which also went moribund sooner that it started, was the new distribution framework. You all were part of it. What happened to that? It was very brilliant on paper. It was a brilliant idea on paper, but it's like the execution, died even before taking off. Died a natural death. What happened to it, and what are the challenges we're having as far as distribution is concerned? Because you are a distributor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. The fact of the case is, I want to thank Bukola for that beautiful speech. I remember when she was carrying Lego papers. She's a very brilliant lawyer. When we had cases with them, she was the one with files. And now that she's on the table, she has seen that what we are facing is heavy. Thank you, Bukola, for being there for us. The truth of the matter is this. A lot of us here, we are only interested in knowing how to do movies. None has ever bothered on how do I market what I produce, or how do I contribute into marketing my movies. When you see somebody, you say, I'm an actor. When you act and you cannot sell what you act, what are you doing? All of us in Lagos will say MC Musiliu, MC Olomo is a fool. Is he really a fool? He's walking the talk. They said they cancelled National Union. The next day they approve him as the chairman of Park and Ride. He knows his onions. Those of us like me sitting down here, if I'm to be a soldier by now, I should be a general. And I tell anybody anywhere in the world, my second degree is in marketing, but all I studied in the university would not have taken me to this extent. Philip Kotler is a liar. All those things they wrote in those books, I have had time to discuss with professors. And they will say, Kush, why don't you be a lecturer? I can never be a lecturer. I'm a practical man. It is just what we learn in school is to broaden our horizon. It is what you learn on the trade that makes you a man. Look, listen. That framework failed. The one brought by Emeka Mba, it failed because it never took the stakeholders along. You are a government worker, no matter what your position is. If you refuse to involve the stakeholders ab initio, it will not fly. Day one, I was involved with him throughout, and I told him from day one, we actually fought him to a standstill. He ran away from us for about 1 year. The next time I saw him, he was growing gray hair like mine. And he said, Kush, you are one of those guys that have made me to gray hair this fast. The fact of the case is this. You cannot tell a child how to behave when he has gone to that age. Marketing is something you do and learn from. You can't learn the rhetoric from papers. When I came into the marketing, 1988, 87, I had a master's degree, but I still went to train under somebody who never went beyond Form 4. These were people that have been involved when they were recording from television and selling on the street. Those were the people, the initial people that called themselves marketers. But when we came in, we told them that what they were doing was piracy. And we started asking producers to go to the location and do movies for us. Because we are willing to sell what we are putting our money on. What we are talking about is following your movie to the audience. That is marketing. That is distribution. For now, if you ask me to sell insurance, I cannot sell insurance. But I can sell movie to the president of Nigeria, even if he doesn't understand Yoruba. I can convince the Nigerian president to buy my Yoruba movie, even if he cannot understand the language spoken there. The truth of the matter is this: knowing your onions. If, like, in the last 2 or 3 days, some of these people here, we have been involved in discussion. Some of them we call it argument. I call it discussion. My friend was in my room this morning for almost 2 hours. We were talking about what is the problem. We have been asking ourselves what is the problem in the last 30 years. Those of you who are emerging superstars, the best to know is that when you get to a place, you learn the tricks. Don't want to be a master at all costs. Everybody cannot lead at the same time. That is what derails our industry. Where some people say, we are producers, you are a Yoruba producer, you can't have a meeting with us, you are an English producer, and at the end of the day, we were finishing ourselves. Until this new trend of new Nollywood people. Look, you can't count Z when you have not said A, B, C. How many number of cinema do we have in Nigeria? I listened to the Executive Secretary, Lagos State Census Board. She said we have 77 for over 290 million people. Come on. The film policy of Nigeria, as amended in 1992, said each of the local governments in Nigeria must have a cinema or viewing center. How many of our local governments in this country have a viewing center? Before cinema came to Nigeria, in those days when they were using rediffusion, before government passes information to people, they will give people like Oladele money to go and do skits. And they will carry with ambulances, no, not ambulance then, all those leyland buses. They will go from village to hamlet.
Okay.
And put the
Just
stickers.
trying to round off, sir.
Yes. That is the advent of government marketing. The government was trying to market policies. So they were using cinema as an avenue to reach the people. And now it is for entertainment, for information, for education, and every other thing you want to add to it. What do we do to get our movies to the audience? We have a lot of them that have been listed. We'll further discuss it in the process of the discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kush. Maybe I will still come back to you later if we have the opportunity. Yeah, because I would have really loved you to speak to the seemingly failed new distribution framework of the census, National Film and Video Census Board, because I know you were very involved. But we'll come back to that if time permits. Let me come to Mr. Dr. Victor Ohai. You are a content creator. So I want you to speak from that perspective. It is your content we are talking about here. Let's have your intervention in all of this. Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. That was a brilliant presentation by the Executive Secretary, is that the title? Of the Lagos State Film and Video Census Board. I took some notes while she was speaking. Like the rest of you too, I met her in Cannes. And quite frankly, the passion has always been there, so I was quite happy when she got in. And the sad part now is that the paper she delivered, I don't think she wrote it down, so I don't know how we're going to be able to get it. She has to. Please. She mentioned something which is very pertinent here, at least at the point which I came in, which is like, don't throw away what you already used to or the traditional because you want to embrace the new, which is talking about, yes, the VOD and the rest. I agree completely because there's a whole demographic out there that is missing out now because they don't have access. Internet penetration is not as it should be. So it's important that we feed that market as well. Unfortunately, pirates drove us into the embrace of VOD. It's because of piracy that people don't want to do DVDs anymore. You don't want to feed pirates. I don't know how we can get around that. And not only that, the rest of Africa didn't know us from, VOD. They knew us from DVDs. When you come, they ask you for DVD. So I agree that we should still find a way to feed that market. It's still a huge, huge market if we can find a very good way of distributing our content on that platform. But I'm mindful of my audience here, and I know that we're talking to a lot of emerging filmmakers. So I'd like to talk to us about other distribution alternatives. If we sit down here and we begin to blow all the grammar you live here, you will not be able to. I want to talk to you about what you can begin to make money with immediately. Many of you have invested in smartphones, but unfortunately, you did it only because your friends are carrying smartphones and you want to chill with the big boys. Eh? So you just carry smartphones, but this smartphone, with this smartphone, and for the record, let me put it here, I'm a film purist, but it will not take away from what I'm about to say because I'm mindful of my audience. This smartphone, with it, the images are getting better and better every day. You can shoot 4K with it, and you can get great sound as well. You can shoot with it, you can edit within it, you can color or grade your film within it, add music, and distribute it without going out of this device. How many of you know what I'm talking about here? Can I see your hands up if you agree with me? You can shoot, edit, grade, and distribute without stepping out of this, without carrying one tape anywhere or any card anywhere. That is the power that you have in your hands, and it is getting even better. But let's take it to another level. I've talked about this over and over, and I will never stop talking about it. How many of you know Mark Angel here? Mark Angel. Let me see your hands properly if you know Mark Angel. Emanuela, the small girl. Most of you here, Abi? Now, how many of you know Blossom, what's his name here? Chukwu Jekwe. How many of you know him here? You can see the hands are few, Abi? So if we were to do, this is a random sample I just took now. Blossom is doing your Netflix and all the big films. All the films that are going to cinema, and yet the hands that have seen it here are very few. Is that not true? I'm going by what I just saw now. But Emanuela here, almost 80% of the people here have seen, they know Mark Angel and Emanuela. Mark Angel is the biggest YouTuber in Nigeria today. I just checked at the last count, he has about 8.25 million subscribers. Which means for every time he releases his skit, he already has a market or an audience of about 8-point-something million. There is no filmmaker, dead or alive in this country today, and I stand to be corrected, that can match him both for cash and eyeballs. And I stand to be corrected. Challenge me, stand up now and tell me I'm a liar. That's not all. I said, when I also mentioned cash, I have a background in digital marketing, and I was doing I went to his back end and I was checking. That guy makes between $380,000 and $450,000 monthly. My calculator not put out for Naira. Are you following me? If you meet me later, and he has 2 channels now. Mark Angel TV, which is now I was checking at the last count. That was started just around the pandemic period, and that one now has about 1.14 million. So you can, and when you see him, you say, smell, smell. That guy, Nollywood cannot pay him to appear in their movie. He doesn't have their time. Why am I saying what I'm saying? Many of you can be Markangel here. You don't, let nobody tell you about red. Again, let me reiterate, I'm a purist. So he said, so the guy makes monthly 221,920,000 as at the exchange rate of today. Madam, I'm not going to show you, you're a government person. For your information, he's not in Lagos State, so you can't go and tax him. Eh? He's not in Lagos, he's in Rivers. He doesn't even visit Lagos. You can't catch him there. So you can see what he makes every month. How many industries make that kind of money? I could go and give you more statistics there. So the point I'm making is that there's a paradigm shift in distribution patterns. I'm sorry, if you permit me. There's a paradigm shift in distribution patterns, but more importantly, there's a convergence of media. It must not be cinema anymore. It must not necessarily be Netflix. People are breaking their heads over nothing. Bro Ashagi is not doing Netflix. And I can tell you that he's killing it. Yawa's kid or whatever, he's in Abuja here. He's killing it. I went to his back end yesterday. I don't want to mention his figure because I'm in Abuja. I don't want to put anybody in trouble. Okay? These guys are killing it. And you are there breaking your head. Somebody is telling you until you get Ari, until you shoot red, forget them. Now me talk am. Are you listening to me? I'm the one that is supposed to say to you, go and shoot on Ari. Go. Don't let anybody discourage you. Start with what you have, where you are, and begin to build up. And I guarantee you, you will soon start paying the so-called big stars. You will soon start bringing them. They will soon start coming to act in your skits. It's happening already. So the truth is, if you want to go to cinema, good luck to you. I can assure you more than 60% of your revenue will get lost before it comes to you. And that's if you're even with the right cinema distributor. We know what is happening there. Okay? If you are waiting for Netflix, you may be waiting for Godot. Eh? But I encourage you. This thing that you have here, start with it today, and I will see you at the very top. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Victor Hai. That's why when an intellectual talk, they come from that perspective. And I'm sure this is a very encouraging words for the emerging talents here in our midst. I'm sure you took a lot away from him. Let me come to Alhaji Abdul Karim. You are a festival owner, and you have been in it. You know, we are talking about connecting content with, the audiences. Are festivals a platform to connect audience with content? Okay, you don't want to use your mic
there. I have been trained to be a teacher, and I taught in primary school. I was retrained and I taught in secondary school before I moved into your territory. So that is why I would like to beg to stand, because in class we don't sit down. The topic this evening or this afternoon is connecting films with audience. Madam Bukola really did justice to this topic here. And I feel by the statement of Alex, I want to rewind a little bit, not that I don't know what you have said I should talk about, but I'm rewinding a little bit because I'm a victim of one thing that his statement confirmed that I was a victim. That you produce content and then you start thinking about how to market it. It's bad logic. From the moment that you intend to be a content generator, you want to produce content, you must think of your audience in the first place. Otherwise, from that point, you have lost it. And to concur with what I'm saying, Dr. Victor just said right now that with your own smartphone, if somebody is getting 8-point-something million viewers, you know from the time that you are generating that content, you know the target base that you are targeting. And their attention span, because you don't need to give them long content, they won't be there. Therefore, the challenge is for your content to be directed at that particular audience so that you can be able to get the eyeballs from the 8.4 million. Did you say 8.4 million? Did you say 8.4 million? 8.52 million. Now that
If you add the second channel, it's 9.39 million.
boy, nobody should joke about having this kind of volume of audience. So if you are generating content to get to the audience and you have an audience base of 10 million, you should not disregard it, which means before you generate the content, you already know who you are targeting. And that is when it makes a lot of sense. When you determine your audience ahead of your production, you know what are the nuances, what are the interests of those particular group you are targeting. And you inject that into your content. American films and programs became very popular in the world because they were very concerned with three-letter acronym that they developed. They call it LCD, lowest common denominator. So even in your audience, you have to determine. That presupposes that when you are talking about audience, you know them well enough. And once you know your audience, then you can determine the LCD, the lowest common denominator of an audience that you want to catch in Kano, the audience you want to catch in Abuja, the ones you want to catch in Port Harcourt or Lagos. They have a common denominator. The more you strive at that LCD factor to inject in your content, the better you'll get your audience. And which means that once you are developing the content, you are crossing borders. You don't want to know whether your audience is in Kano, Abuja, or wherever. No, you already know the nuances of that audience, and that's what you're hitting. So it doesn't matter where he or she is. By the development of your content, you have taken care to attract them so that you can be able to get their eyeballs. And once you get the eyeballs, that is what translates into money. Since we are doing Show Your Money, this is what simply this theme means. Track your audience, know your audience very well, develop this LCD factor in your content so that you can be able to get the eyeballs to make the money. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alaji. We appreciate. Thank you very much. Let me come to the digital man, Mr. Digital. He knows how. I'm sure he's going to burst our bubble now with his intervention. Please, Mr. Osezua Stephen Immobile, let's get your perspective. You can use your mic if you want. You want to do like Alaji. Please, very well, do. Very well.
Yes, let me borrow Alaji's style. I was just telling him, if an old man like him, or a young man like him can do that, then some of us who are much younger, I think we do better. Good evening, all. First and foremost, let me thank my friend and my sister. But she said I should not call her my sister anymore. I should just say friend or colleague, because that one has implication. The implication is that the loan they are giving out by Lagos State is not for friends and family. And since she is involved, and if I call her my sister, then I would have just cut myself out unnecessarily. So, my friend and colleague. Yeah, you did very well with your papers. I didn't almost even want to stand up, because
others, even Alaji, leverage on that. But I'll just quickly say this, because we are talking about connecting with the film audience. And how do we connect with them? When we are traveling, we get to the airport, you are going to Lagos, you get a flight to connect you to Lagos. It's the same thing. Once, before you make your film, like some of my colleagues have said here, one thing you need to know, you have your theme. The theme, what are you talking about? What is the theme? What's the essence? And what's the objective? I think the next stage is your audience. Who are your audience? What is their demography? Talking about their age. Talking about their location. Talking about the language they speak. What is their demography? Are they men or they are women? Are they children or adults? You need to, in developing your personas, you have to put all these things in writing. You have to develop an audience persona. That who is he? What kind of food does he like? And all that kind of thing. Developing that, you also talk about their habits. Is he a worker? When he closes, what does he do? What's that free time? And all that. You need to know the person very well. Another very important thing you should consider is the psychography of your audience. I think yesterday, they were telling us here and giving numbers of how many subscribers Netflix, how many they lose. And I'm telling them, did you ever ask for the reason? Because this one will come, they lost so and so number, another one. Did you ask the reason? Permit me for those of you who are my elders. There's a Yoruba adage that says, if an elder falls, you look at the back. When a child falls, you look at the front where it's going. You know why the elder is looking at the back? He wants to see the cause of his fall. And that's why I think one of my interventions yesterday, they did not consider the psychographic of their audience. Some of us have values. I don't want to expose my children to gay stuff on TV. Even if I've paid and you do it, instantly I will shut that thing down. But in some other climes, they don't mind. They don't say anything wrong. In fact, there are places today, I can't even stand up and talk like this. Thank God for Nigeria. Even in Africa, there are places they will tell you are discriminating. What is wrong in a man sleeping with a man? Madness. Madness. But here, the psychography, you must consider the value of your audience. What is their value? What are their values? You must talk about their lifestyle in talking about the psychography. You must also go into what is the interest. What is the interest of your audience? So when you put all this together in drawing up your audience persona, then you know exactly, you know what time, you know the consumption habits, what does he watch, what's the theme of the kind of things. I like, for instance, if it's documentary, I can spend my whole day watching documentary. But I'm sorry to say, you will not catch me sit for a long time watching drama, funny enough, and yes, we make drama. I'm not advising you to be like me, but that's just my interest. I can sit down from morning till night to listen to high life music precisely. But if you, of course, Buki knows, I became friends with his dad because the father is a young man too, and he loves high life like me. So that is the thing. Interest matters. Who are you making it for? Unfortunately, most of us, we get carried away. We write our movies. We write it for ourselves. And yet we are not the ones that are going to patronize ourselves. You write that thing because that's what you like to write. But then, research into your audience. Research what they like. And I always advise that we should go into analytics. There are even some free ones like Google. They have their own analytics. It will tell you about your audience, tell you where they live, tell you how they consume. Oh, they are workers. between 12 and 1, they are free. They are, because of their break time. They can afford to sit down and eat and just look through your watch through your content. So let's deploy analytics to research into your audience, where they are living. You will also need that one, even when you are doing publicity for your stuffs. I want to target Nigerians, so they will be missing home. The ones in America, you have more in Atlanta. You have so and so number. I think we put the figures yesterday. The blacks, the Africans in diaspora, and their numbers. So you can target those ones also. They have data to spend to watch some of these things. Do they need your content? Yet they need it if it's the kind of content they love, because they are missing home. When you travel abroad, you meet other Nigerians, you see the way they will embrace you. They are missing home. So I just want us, what I'm telling us in a nutshell is that let's be scientific. This time around, we need to deploy scientific measures for us to realize that great numbers we are seeing. Thank you, and God bless.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Osezua Stephen Immobile. Let me go to the last, but certainly not the least, Mr. Tio Akatuba, the President, Association of Nollywood Co-Producers and my president.
Yeah.
You have the floor, sir. After him, we'll come to the audience.
Thank you very much.
So that if there is any question, I don't want to come back to the panelists again.
Thank you.
Maybe you will just do the audience 1 or 2 questions. I'm sure maybe they will have, I know the audience will have questions for Dr. Ohai, because he has thrown up millions and millions of naira. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be in this panel. And I want to appreciate the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Film Agency for that exposition and the questions that the exposition left in terms of film distribution, connecting the film with the audience. Now, I am not such a big fan of YouTube for what it does to the feature film industry in Nigeria currently. I normally argue that putting feature-length movies on YouTube is a postponement of one's poverty and confirming poverty ahead of time. You might make some money today, but the value of that work of art can be sold and be made available to millions and billions of people if you protect it and do not put it out on such a big free medium. Now, my contribution this afternoon will be, a lot of us, the Burkinabe woman said we make our movies within a short time we distribute, and we are done with that, we go to the next title. I want to advocate that one movie can keep you in business for 3 years by employing localization. That's a fanciful word for dubbing and what you call making your movie available in multiple languages. So that by the time you start production, you should think. Let me give you an example. There is this movie that DSTV commissioned called Battleground. I was watching it in Yoruba language recently, and I saw the number of people that were in the room. This was a movie that was originally shot in English language, but when it's dubbed in Yoruba, it captivated me and held me spellbound, even after I saw it in English. The same thing with the telenovelas that I do import and show in different countries. I was a distributor with one of the telenovelas titled Second Chance. I brought it to Nigeria. It was originally shot in a Latin language. That movie was shown in several languages in the world, Mandarin, Arabic, and it hit close to 3 to 4 billion people. One language, one production, reaching out to several audiences. I go to Kenya and I find that Kenyans love Nigerian movies. But I do not see Nigerians setting up huge localization for Swahili language. And you know the Swahili language is so big in Central Africa. And these are people that Nollywood has influenced a great deal. What do you think will happen if a producer makes his movie in English language, localize it in Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo language, first primarily in Nigeria? The number of people in northern part of Hausa language is spoken across Nigeria, Niger, and all of that. You can see that your potential for cinema screening across those countries is big. Release on even on pay TV is big, and all of that. So your opportunities are big, not with so many movies, but with one great internationally relevant movie produced from the Nigerian standpoint and localized for so many people. So that we will not be talking of too many movies, but we'll be talking of movies that indeed reaches the audience and reaches a lot of them. This is something that producers in this room should take into consideration, so that when you are making a movie, you can actually produce one movie and reach the entire Nigerian 200 million and make money from that audience. Then you move into the Ashanti region and go to Chui language, another 24 million people, before you go down and keep going and going. There is potential in localization. There is potential in dubbing. I have dubbed 2 of my telenovelas. I dubbed Tentacles into French. I had 114 episodes. I got patronage in Mali, in Niger, one movie, and it went round like that. Our lady, Ibironke, did A Taste of Love, and I saw it in Mali. It was acquired and is shown in Togo and Benin Republic. The beauty of localization cannot be of... Alaji here, Chief here, has up to 500 titles. Just imagine, of Yoruba language movies. Imagine today he start doing localization. He might not need to shoot any movie in the next 2, 3, 4 years, and he will be enjoying huge revenue stream from 500 titles. I want to stop there. Let's think localization. Let's think expanding the reach of the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think at this point, I don't know if we have any questions from the veterans in the house or the emerging talents. Yeah, quickly. Yes, sir. Yeah, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ale Olusegun Lanrewaju Ale Olusegun Lanrewaju. I was a director, PRS, about 10 years ago in SGF. I'm agreeing on in what you are doing. But what fascinated me mostly this evening was when Bukola started speaking. Nigeria has no reason why we should embrace poverty. And I can see that we really need enterprise economy if we want to go far. What Bukola said, if all states, with due regard, can replicate what Lagos is doing, it goes a long way. I listened to Kayode Kusoro, is that not your name? Kayode Aina Kusoro. Good. You are a person who should even help the country. Sorry to say this. I'm not trying to apportion blame. Nigerian film, is it corporation or whatever industry? I'm a greener and I've already told you I don't know much about it.
Yeah, just try to bring it home because
Thank
of
you.
time, sir. Just round off.
Please, go straight to where NYSC, when they are starting their this thing, sell these things to them. Or I did provoke my thought on a number of things. That's a cerebral, a very big brain. And the other man, I don't know your name, the man who said he was a teacher, and Immobile, and the last person. All of you, even many other people that are here, I think this thing that you people are doing can help the nation and bring us out of the wood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You want? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'll just keep it short. I want to commend the ES from Lagos. I'm sure she has forgotten me. I'm the head of Legal Nigerian Film Corporation. During the time of Frank Kabala, when she was the DG of Census Board here, we had this case, or rather you and them had this case that we were setting in Lagos. It's all about distribution channel and censorship and all of that. I don't know whether it has been said. Anyway, I think I just want to commend you and to say I'm not surprised you got to where you got to, because even then you had this passion for it, and I mean, it was commendable then and it's still commendable now. Well done. Thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. And then I also thank our Nigerian Film Corporation for talking about distribution. It's always been there and it has continued to be there. How do you get the eyeballs, like they will tell us in entertainment law? If you make a film must be seen. If you write a book must be read. If you sing a song must be heard. And that's behind every work of art. So this is how do they say it? It's coming at the right time, especially as we're looking for how to see the money or how to get or share the money. Or seeing the money, good. And we are sharing the money. And also thank you all panelists. You've done so well. You have enlightened everybody. Kudos to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe the last person. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, panelists. I have a simple question. We all know that prior to now, cinema died. Cinema had resurrected now. Structural adjustment plan. I mean, cinema culture had died, given structural adjustment plan, SAP, and now cinema has resurrected. Now, given the imperative role of Netflix, YouTube, and all of that, how can we assess cinema culture, in years to come?
All right, thank you. Panelists, anybody want to final shot? Yeah. Start with you.
I want to say that cinema is not just about movies. Cinema is about, it's an opportunity for an outing. It's like going to a bar, with your friends, with your loved ones. Cinema is a culture. It's not something that will necessarily die like that. So there's something about it that it's not just about the movies, although the movies are the initial attraction, but it's a place for socialization. So there's a place for it, and there's a place for so much more, even at the local level. The only thing is, my worry is that the cinema owners themselves, if they are not careful, they'll be the ones to kill the business for themselves. But if those ones up there kill it, smaller ones will emerge, but the cinema culture, I think, will still continue.
Thank you. Alhaji Kush, let's have your parting shot.
I still take it that, you see, when people say cinema culture is dead, I don't agree with you. In those days, I think I have showed movies at the National Theatre more than 300 times. even when the Ileya or the Christmas is approaching, they will have given me a date before I go to shoot a film. There are some of us that will have been given a date before films are made. As at the last Eid Fitri, our people still showed movie at the National Theatre, Cultural Center Ibadan, Cultural Center Abeokuta, Ijebu-Ode, and all these places. Who told you that the cinema culture is dead? The problem we have is with the security of the country. People still go out to watch our movies. The most important thing is getting the movie that will bring out people. In those days, when I take movies to cinema, I tell guys that I'm only using it to advertise the movie in preparation for release. It is not the money I want to make from cinema that was attractive, but now it is the money they are making from cinema. Because one, there are not many. Two, they are the core investors in the same cinema they own.
Thank you. Thank you. Theo.
Yeah, I think the person who has the question looked at the fact that it's been revived and how do we sustain it. And we can sustain it if we lower our expectations. Sometimes I think practitioners are too much in a hurry, or we think from a very, we might be thinking from a selfish point of view. I always say that the cinema infrastructure is very expensive, and the sharing formula might not be very attractive or appear to be annoying when you hear the huge box office numbers, and then after the entire cannibalization of the figures, what comes to the producer appear to disappoint him. But I want to say that it is not different from the international scene. It's not too different. The reality is that the sharing might not be so much to the advantage of the producer now, but with constant and continuous negotiation, with patience, the cinema houses will get to a point where they recoup their investment and they'll come to terms. But overall, I think understanding and cooperation will sustain the industry better instead of resentment and...
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Steve.
Yeah. I also believe that in not too distant future, they are going to run themselves out of business because they are competing with their own clients. Someone said so here, I think Papel, we were sitting here together yesterday, and his own movie, which we are also helping to look for distribution for. Eventually, he got a good deal with a distributor in North America. And he is saying, instead of you paying here, they even pay you. They give you a kind of assurance that we'll be able to make up to X amount. And he also showed the poster that he designed. The same poster, by the time they were done with it, he showed me, it was different. But the reverse is the case in Nigeria, and I wonder why we always like to do things the wrong way. Here, you will pay them. They will ask you maybe for 2-3 millions that they want to use it to do publicity. They are still going to charge you, and it forms part of why they have a higher stake than you that owns the film.
Thank you.
Cinema house.
Alaji.
The cinema house. Just a question. No. Is this related, we'll go, is this related to the distributor who distributes your film or the cinema house?
I just talked about the two of them, but in Nigeria you realize that the distributors are also the cinema houses. They are playing the two roles.
Yeah. Alaji.
Yes, I remember you asked me about the usefulness of film festival to distribution.
Exactly.
So that's my closing remarks will be on that. As a person that is promoting film festival and who has visited quite a number of film festivals across the world, I see film festivals as an excellent networking platform first, because through interacting with fellow filmmakers, you get to enlarge your network and also the scope of your professionality. Because when you play your professionalism against somebody else's in different environment, it comes to bear on how you professionalize more. Secondly, some of these film festivals, like the FESPACO, has a market component on it, and a lot of deals on marketing films are struck at such a festival. And thirdly, festivals usually honor people that are in film business, either as crew or as artists, to reward their own excellence of work. Therefore, it's a great motivational factor point where people that operate within the industry are motivated to do even better. Because when you recognize, honor, and gives it unto who it is due, you mobilize that person to perform better than what you are crediting him for. So I feel that festivals at any time, especially now with Nigeria wishing to reposition itself globally, and with Nollywood taking us to the second position in the world in terms of sheer number of producing movies, and also the films exposing our nation, generating interest about the country. When we have festivals, it means that we are offering platforms that people can come over and share with us what we have in this country. And tourism is larger economic gold than oil, for example. We have a monolithic economy that is solely or largely dependent on oil. So if we open up the tourism sector and these festivals can be able to help us to do that, I think it will be worth the while of our GDP.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please help me off the mic. Thank you very much. Just before I come to the Executive Secretary of Lagos State Film and Video Censors Board for your parting words, to wrap it up, let me just announce that immediately after this session, and incidentally, most of the people seated here are involved in this next session, which is the inauguration of the Nigerian Film Festival Association. Alaji is involved, Osezua is involved, Victor Ohai is involved. That inauguration will take place immediately after now, and I will just hand over to Osezua and Alaji to anchor that. Madu Sishikwendu is all of them are here, and they will take things from there. It's a very significant ceremony, very significant ceremony. So, Madam Executive Secretary, let's have your parting words. Then after that, we just pose for a photograph. Then.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. My closing remarks is going to be like a potpourri of all submissions that has been made here today, because if all is taken down as a framework for us to work, we'll have a better community of filmmakers, and problems that seems to follow us in this distribution networking, it would end. I believe from what Mr. Dr. Ohai said, we have to challenge ourselves. The smartphone is not just for making calls and sending text messages. You're holding a gold mine in your hands. Utilize it. And like Alaji Mohammed said, the film festival is available. Make use of it for your networking. Make use of it for your learning process. I started with a film festival. That's why you hear most of them saying, I met her in Cannes, yes, most of them I met in Cannes. It was a learning experience for me, and it helped build my mind on what a film city, a film festival, filmmaking should be about. And our daddy here, Kusore, already said it. He has a master's before he went to understudy under a Form 4 school, dropout. With the iPhone and all that, we've come to learn that the creatives does not necessarily need a degree as a talent that needs to be developed. It's a talent that needs to be nurtured. He learned it from somebody that did not have a degree when he had a master's. Try to understudy. Find mentors that you can work with, that you can learn the trade from. Mr. Teo talked about localizing our content. That's where the money is. Follow that dream. Push it until you get there. It's the right way to make your money, not the other ways that we are hearing from our youth, which is not palatable, which does not sell the country in good light. Follow your dream. It will bring you the money in good time. Mr. Stephen also spoke about the technology in place, how we need to utilize it, how we are blessed being in Nigeria. We can talk about the content that we want. It's content that we need to build. The kind of content you push out determines how far you go in the industry. You better be known for content that preaches good values. You don't need to make quick money from the nudity, vulgar languages and all that. It's a money that does not last. It will only be for a while, but does not give you the kind of name that you need in the industry. So let's all work together. On a parting note, I'd say it's been wonderful being here. I have learned, unlearned, and relearned. And hopefully, next year, by His grace, we'll meet again with better stories, with better news. And I want to see you up there. I want to hear your name on the big screens. Let that be a promise kept by the grace of God.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive Secretary. Thank you, all my panelists. You've done a wonderful job. You've done justice to this panel. And thank you, wonderful audience, for being there, for being a participatory audience. We appreciate. So now I will yield the floor to the members of the Association of Film Festivals of Nigeria. Alaji is already there, Stephen is there, Madu Sishikwendo is the anchor, himself and Fidelis Duka. Please, you have the floor now. And immediately after that, I'm sure the inauguration will be a very brief ceremony. Immediately after that, we will have two performances. We have a poet called by name Zuma. Then we have another performance by Legendary Movies Production Academy, Abuja. But the inauguration first. So just stand by. These two performances, stand by. Thank you.
It's a short ceremony. Yeah. Good evening, all. Mr. Fidelis Duka, if you're in the hall, please step out. All members of the Nigerian Film Festival Association, please, can I see your hand up if you are here? Can I see your hand up if you are here? Okay. Alice, I'm seeing you. Where are the others? Please come out. If you are here, please come. Yeah, come here. Come out. Come and sit on the high table. That's where you belong. Wait, there will be a process now. Wait, they will still come now. I was calling you. I didn't know that. I was coming now. You're not waiting. You are too much in the early. There's a program. The program is let's first of all introduce them.